A top AEW star finally makes his return to action, and the Young Bucks address the CM Punk AEW All Out situation. But first, the AEW future of CM Punk has been a topic of discussion for months at this point. This following the backstage altercation with the Elite at the All Out pay-per-view in September, with the final decision no doubt being delayed due to the injury he sustained in his match that night. Speaking on his Grilling JR podcast this week, AEW announcer Jim Ross would give his thoughts on a possible comeback for the straight edge superstar, this when discussing the company's preparations for June's Forbidden Door pay-per-view. When discussing the importance of getting the whole roster back on the show, Ross would say, "Getting everybody healthy again and back on the roster again is important. Of course, the whole question is going to center around will CM Punk ever be back? I'm one of the guys that believe he will be back. We'll see. I think AEW needs CM Punk because of his star power, and he brings with controversy creates cash, and he's certainly controversial. I'm a big fan of Phil's. We'll see how it works out. I'm optimistic and positive." This Friday night, Ring of Honor present the Super Card of Honor pay-per-view ahead of WrestleMania weekend, a show that will see a tribute match in honor of the late Jay Briscoe, who sadly passed away earlier this year. In honor of his legacy, ROH will host the Reach for the Sky ladder match for the now vacant tag team titles, belts held by the Briscoes at the time of Jay's passing. ROH owner Tony Khan would appear on the Battleground podcast this week ahead of the show, where he revealed how the match came to be, as well as what the future holds for the classic ROH tag belts that were recently brought back to television. Khan would say, "Jay Briscoe was beloved in the locker room, and there's wrestling fans all over the world that loved him. We wanted to pay tribute to him in Ring of Honor with something special, and all of the ideas I heard, this was by far the best idea. It came from somebody who liked him a lot and wanted to contribute a good idea. Mark Briscoe really thought it was a great idea, and that was important to me too. Mark Briscoe is also the co-holder of the World Tag Team Championships, and having his opinion, having him buy into the plan made all the difference in the world. So we're gonna have the Jay Briscoe Reach for the Sky tag team ladder match to determine new champions. There will be new belts. We retired the old design." Elsewhere in the interview with Battleground, Tony Khan would discuss his other wrestling company, All Elite Wrestling, and a potential partnership with the Stardom all-female promotion in Japan. Stardom are owned by Bushiroad, the same company that owns AEW's partners New Japan Pro Wrestling, leading many to wonder if we could see some of their stars cross over ahead of the Forbidden Door event, something that looks to be on the cards. Khan would reveal that talks have indeed taken place, with it something he has his eye on, and said, "I am interested in working with Stardom. It's something that I've talked to New Japan about. Obviously, they have that business relationship there. It's definitely something I'd be open to, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. But definitely interesting things happening in the world of Joshi, and we've brought some great Joshi wrestlers over. There's exciting things happening there, so I would be interested to work with Stardom in the future." And speaking of deals and negotiations, the AEW contract of Brian Cage has officially come to an end, this after recent reports emerged that it was set to expire. Cage's status was seemingly confirmed last night on Wrestling Observer Radio when Dave Meltzer noted, "Brian Cage apparently is finishing up, that's what I hear, and he's finishing up unless they sign him to a new deal. If they do, then he's not finishing up. His deal has expired, but he's agreed to do business and drop the belt on the way out if in fact he doesn't sign. We'll see how that turns out." Cage currently makes up 1/3 of the ROH 6-man tag team champions alongside Korn and Toa Leona, with them set to defend their belts tomorrow night at Super Card of Honor against AR Fox, Blake Christian and Metalik. We can assume that new champions will be crowned unless terms of a new contract can be agreed ahead of time. And speaking of Bushiroad, current free agent and former New Japan Pro Wrestling star Kota Ibushi is set to return to the ring tonight for the first time since his contract expired, with him scheduled to take on Mike Bailey and Joey Janela at GCW events tonight and Friday respectively. However, it appears that the shoulder injury that kept the Golden Star out of action since October 2021 has now returned, leaving his short-term future in doubt. With that said, the plan right now is for the Bloodsport match with Bailey to go ahead as planned tonight, something that some fans expect to change. Dark Puro, who are often in contact with Kota directly, would take to Twitter to say, "Kota Ibushi versus Speedball Mike Bailey. Unfortunately, Kota Ibushi did re-injure his shoulder yesterday. As much as I'd like to see the match, health comes first. For now, the match is still on." There's been a ton of speculation regarding the status of Vince McMahon, who recently returned to WWE following his hiatus, with there being suspicions that he's back in charge of creative despite denials from higher-ups in the company. Either way, we now know that McMahon will be in attendance at this weekend's WrestleMania event. This according to Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer Radio, as well as Mike Johnson of PW Insider Elite. Last time McMahon was at a show was at a recent episode of Raw when John Cena returned, where he was said to have little to no involvement, simply remaining in the gorilla position for most of the night. It remains to be seen how involved he'll be at WrestleMania, but it's likely that he'll have limited involvement. And speaking of WrestleMania, WWE today released the official match cards for the two nights, confirming which matches will take place on which night. Notably, John Cena vs Austin Theory for the United States title is listed at the top of the card, leading some and me to think that it might be main eventing, this despite it being announced on Raw as the opener. Fightful Select have confirmed, however, that this is not the case, and he's simply there at the top of the graphic due to his name value. Charlotte Flair vs Rhea Ripley, the Usos vs Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins vs Logan Paul, and Rey Mysterio vs Dominic Mysterio are all notable Night 1 matches. Elsewhere, Roman Reigns vs Cody Rhodes, of course, headlines Night 2, joined by Bianca Belair vs Asuka, the Freeway Intercontinental title match, Edge vs Finn Balor, and Brock Lesnar vs Omos. And before we continue, why not drop a like down below if you're enjoying the video, and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you don't miss the latest wrestling news, as we try to reach 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. But with that said, let's get to the next story. Last night, AEW Dynamite would air live from St. Louis, Missouri, which would be the home of a major heel turn. Following Kenny Omega's win over Jeff Cobb, the Blackpool Combat Club would hit the ring, taking the cleaner out in the process. This would then lead to an interruption from the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson, who hasn't been seen alongside his BCC teammates in some time. At first, it appeared that the American Dragon was there to save the day. However, it soon became clear that this is not the case, with him aligning with Moxley, Claudio, and Yuta, this when he dropped Omega with a huge knee to the face before locking in the label lock. Danielson would then use one hand to cover Kenny's nose, leading to him passing out. It would appear that we're now set for a rematch between the two men following their first match in the summer of 2021 at Dynamite Grand Slam, perhaps this time for the IWGP United States Championship at the Forbidden Door. Elsewhere on the show, Adam Cole would make his long-anticipated return to action after being out since last year's Forbidden Door show in June following multiple concussion issues. Cole would battle Daniel Garcia of the Jericho Appreciation Society, receiving a warm welcome from the St. Louis crowd, before going on to put his opponent away with a knee to the back of the head for the 1-2-3. A match was then teased between Cole and Chris Jericho, whilst Jericho helped his teammate Garcia. Following the show during the debut of AEW All Access, Adam Cole's Road to Recovery began to air after Dynamite concluded, a show that we have more on next. The AEW All Access documentary series would premiere last night, immediately following Dynamite, with one of the stories following the Elite's recent return from suspension. Of course, CM Punk, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega would find themselves suspended from All Elite Wrestling following their involvement in the locker room brawl the night of AEW All Out 2022, which saw Punk stripped of his AEW World title and the Elite stripped of their AEW Trios titles. Whilst a direct mention of CM Punk was sidestepped, the Young Bucks would give their feelings on the incident in September, as well as their reluctance to let cameras in on their personal lives despite the name of the show. And firstly, Nick Jackson would say, "What happened is definitely going to be a black eye on our career, probably forever, and we don't want to talk about it." Matt Jackson would then reveal the impact that All Out had on the Bucks' careers and added, "When we had to vacate the titles, it greatly affected my mental health. You've worked so hard for so long to build up your brand, to be something. I hope that we can continue to build our legacy, but I don't know if our career will ever be the same." It's worth mentioning that CM Punk's name didn't come up in the show whatsoever, with them instead choosing to indirectly skirt around the issue, something that would have no doubt been confusing for the few in the audience unfamiliar with the situation. And before you go, make sure you check out the 10 free agents that are set to shake up WrestleMania season.